Hey, all you cool cats and kittens. It's Carol out here with Cameron the lion. And I was looking for the evening meds and snacks person, but I might be a little bit too late. I just can't get used to this new time change that we got here. Why is your tongue hanging out so far? All day long, both of the veterinarians and our vet care team here at the sanctuary have been talking about Cameron. He has a few good days, and then he has some really bad days, and then he has a few good days. And so the pattern that they are seeing is that when he is on mirtazapine, which I understand people take that to deal with depression and anxiety, and so I think it's also an appetite stimulant. Hello there, Zabu. Hi. I know, the sun is so bright, huh? It's all blinky-eyed coming out of that den. So I think it makes him feel like he's in better spirits and he wants to eat. And so they're going to try putting him on that, I think, every day. I don't pay too close of attention when they're talking about dosages and such, since I'm not the person who actually administers the drugs. Hi, Brittany Mara. Thank you for putting your tongue back in. Yeah, you looked really pathetic with it hanging out. I'm on foot. Yeah, Kim, he doesn't feel so good. We have to watch him really carefully and make sure that his quality of life is good enough to keep going, and that's why the vets are so concerned and why they are constantly in communication with our crew here of all the people who take care of him to make sure that we're doing the very best we can for his benefit, not for ours. And beautiful little Miss Zabu over there, being cute. I'm just gonna flop right over. It's hot, huh? Yeah. And here it is, 5 p.m. and it's 84 degrees in November. It's really hot. Kelly, it's not that he's sick. He's 18 years old. And in the wild, these guys are only designed to live to be 10 or 12. And in captivity, they don't usually live past 10 or 12. It's pretty rare when a cat lives to be 18. So if you were to multiply 18 by 6, that's roughly what he would be if he were a person. I can't do that math in my head. You'd think I could, as many of our cats that are 18 to 20 some odd years old. But it's over 100. And as you know, with elderly people, when they're over 100 years old, they don't look so hot. I think he looks remarkably good given his age. Although I did see this lady, I think it was on Facebook, they said she was like 102 years old. I was startled how good she looked. Hello, Miss Priya. Did you think I didn't see you up there? Did you think you were going to pounce us? Were you going to get everybody and scare them? Make everybody go squee! Don't jump off of there. Goodness. Crazy cat. Yeah, you're not supposed to jump from that high. You got steps. I didn't bring anything. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, Kelly. 108. Yes, this is Miss Priya. Did you have a fun day, Priya? She is stunning. Just stunning, yes you are. Laura says you say moo. Liz, she was the life of the party at the Wildcat Walkabout on Saturday. You're such a show-off. I love those peoples. I love that, miss. My attention. Yeah. Did you have fun with Jamie today? Jamie was working next door. Working on fixing doors on the cougar cages. Wow. This is how keepers get from one area to the other. We go through the tunnels. The tunnels are what takes the cats, the big cats, out to the 2.5 acre vacation rotation. Yeah, that white mask around their eyes really is pretty. I was so disgusted that China just recently just came right out and said we're going to legalize our what do you call it? Our local trade, even though it's illegal to trade across countries in tigers, they're legalizing their captive bred trade, which is just a death knell for tigers in the wild. The article I was reading this morning was by the Environmental Investigative Agency, EIA, I think, and they were talking about how since China opened up or lifted their, why can't I think of the word? It's like not international, but anyway, when they lifted their local ban, which has been in place since I think the 90s, when they lifted that ban, people all around China, on the outskirts of China, countries on the outskirts of China, started getting calls wanting tiger parts. So they're really planning on building up that demand for tiger parts and rhino horns. And it's always going to be cheaper to take a cat from the wild than to raise one for a year or 2 years to get it to the size that they need. I don't know what can be done to negotiate with China to get them to see that the rest of the world just finds that to be barbaric. Well, there's a person. There's Afton. I just passed Gabrielle, so that's her sleeping over there on the other side of that den. And I see Afton headed over to Keisha, so I thought I'd see what she's up to. Christina, I got no cart and no bike today. I thought this was going to be a really fast one, and then I realized I drove my truck this morning because I was supposed to take my truck to the dealership, but I forgot to call the dealership, so it didn't go.
Hello.
Hello.
Every evening she lays in the same spot and looks the lake, and it's like the cutest thing ever, so I stopped today to take a photo. Because it just looks so peaceful.
That does look peaceful, Keisha. I don't know if I can see you. Am I going to be able to see you from back here? So that is rather peaceful to see her looking out over her lake. I don't know, Karen. And we've got so much going on right now with tariffs and such with them that we're not their best friend. Well, I can't blame her. If this was my enclosure, I think that's exactly where I would lay too. It's got the best view of the lake. Pop to the back of my ears. Kim, there's never been a cheetah here. Cheetahs are so inbred. I mean, like, I'm thinking the DNA is like 98% the same from all cheetahs, and that's because of a bottleneck that I understand happened like 10,000 years ago in their evolutionary cycle. So in addition to the fact that they're super inbred in captivity, they already started out by being extraordinarily inbred, so they don't live very long, and they suffer from anxiety in captivity. So they deal with all kinds of horrible digestive issues, just always very anxious. They're not happy about being in cages, and as a result they frequently die very young. So that makes them very valuable to the zoo communities, who sell them for $50,000 to $55,000 a piece, which means they don't very often end up being sold as pets. And even if they did end up being sold as pets, people wouldn't have them long enough for the cats to end up needing rescue, because of the fact that they are just so sickly. So no cheetahs have ever been here. We were trying to help with the cheetah in, I think it was Argentina. A zoo had closed down there, and they asked if we would take the cat. So we started going through all of the paperwork and everything to bring the cat here. And then next thing I knew, it was going to Wildcat Sanctuary, I think. And then it didn't seem to ever end up there. So I don't know if the cat died or what happened, but it never ended up showing up on this side of the world. All right, well, you enjoy your peaceful evening, Keisha. Let's see if there's anybody else out and about. Maybe since I'm already inside the tiger barricade, I'll go over to Gabrielle. People often ask about Jaguar, and we don't usually have Jaguar here because they're another cat that doesn't show up in private hands very often, so therefore it doesn't usually need to be rescued. I know there's one recently that's been bounced around, used as a pay-to-play prop down in Miami, and then ended up in Oklahoma, and everybody is pretty sure it originated at Jim Fout's place, because he's about the only person anybody knows of that is breeding them. Hi. Hi, Chappy one. Oh, yes. Oh, say, did I wake up from a nap for this? What is this? This isn't big for me. Who loves the pocket tiger? I love that pocket tiger. Sweet Gabrielle. Everybody's posting your link to your bio. You have such a bio. Yes, you do. These tiny legged tigers got a good bio. Good in that it's so typical, and it's a great bio to be able to use to explain to people why it's so bad to have your picture made with a cub, because they're just constantly breeding these mama tigers, ripping their cubs away, using them as pay-to-play props. Once they do that, cubs never get to go back to their mom. And the cubs will be starved to keep them small as long as they possibly can, which is probably what happened with her. And they are deprived of their mother's colostrum, so they catch a lot of diseases. They're deprived of calcium and stuff to make them grow to be big, healthy, strong tigers, so they end up being little, tiny, stunted tigers. And then they end up being just bred to death or living in horrible enclosures. Or if you guys are following the news, you will know that there was an indictment issued in wildlife trafficking charges today that talks about selling cats illegally across state lines and killing tigers to make room for more tigers, and all of that stuff that I can't talk about because of our pending lawsuit, but you can look it up, and the entire indictment is actually available online on one of the news stories. But it's so typical, you know, it's just this is just one person they've caught, but there are so many people that are involved in the trafficking of these beautiful cats. And I'm so happy to see that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is casting a net and bringing some of those people to justice. And hopefully it will serve as a warning to others who have been openly and flagrantly ignoring the laws, that they will stop trading in these cats. Are you hot? It is hot. It's so very hot. It's hot and muggy. Yeah, we don't touch the cats because of a number of things. One is, we're telling people don't pay to touch cats, so how stupid would that be for us to be touching cats? And two, if they were to hurt us and we ended up having to get medical treatment, even if we said we didn't want it to happen, the government could come in here and force us to cut their heads off and test them for rabies, because none of the vaccines for rabies are approved effective for use in cats. We vaccinate for rabies, we vaccinate for all of the things that kill domestic cats, but even though we do that to safeguard them, it doesn't do anything to safeguard a human if a human were to be hurt. Anybody who works with big cats knows that. So when you see them out there showing off and putting their hands all over the cats, or even worse, letting the public do that, they are purposely putting that cat's life in peril for the money that they can make off of that, and that's just so wrong. 37 degrees in Indianapolis. Holy cats. That's terrible. Yeah, you might like that for about 5 minutes, but I don't think you'd like that all the time. Lynette, it's not a factor. Nobody, to my knowledge, has ever been bitten by a big cat and contracted rabies. But just by virtue of the fact that you can't prove that the vaccines are effective, the CDC can demand that the cat be tested for rabies. And the only way to do that is to cut their heads off and test the brain. Jessica Marks, that's exactly it. Diane, I am not big on stroking the cats when they're under anesthesia because I feel like they wouldn't want me touching them when they're awake, so I'm not going to be putting my hands on them while they're asleep, unless it's something that I have to do, like carrying the cat in, or if I were administering fluids or holding the vein for the vet to be able to draw blood or something like that. I might have my hands on the cats during something like that. But to answer probably which next question is, no, they're not that soft. It's kind of like touching a dog or a horse. Lara, I know about the place that you're talking about, and I think it's one of the top 3 worst places in the United States. Kelly, the new members of Congress won't be taking office until January, so all of the same numbers work for the alerts that you're calling on, and it's still a good idea to make the call of the wild, because we want to go into next session where we'll stand a better chance, since it'll be controlled by the Democrats, who usually support animal protection measures. But we want to go in there having as many people as possible signed on as co-sponsors, because it makes it that much faster and easier as soon as our bill is introduced to be able to go back to all those people and say, remember you did this already, so you don't have to go through that whole convincing process all over again. All right, well, there's no other tigers close by, and I'm not at all sure that I'd be able to find any of the little cats this evening. So I'm going to call it a night, but thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you everyone who has made the call of the wild. You can do that at bigcatact.com if you're in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., we have other bills that you can take action on at catlaws.com. catlaws.com. Love you guys. Good night. That's not what I meant to do. That's what I meant to do. Because I love it when they bathe.